Every year Apple release a new Pro iPhone, and every year it's refined, it's powerful, it's predictable. Everything you expect from Apple at the top end. The iPhone 17 Pro is exactly that. It's the safest choice, the most complete choice. The version of the iPhone that gives you the very best Apple can offer. But this year, Apple have done something different. The iPhone Air isn't trying to outspec the Pro. It isn't trying to be the most powerful or the most feature-packed. Instead, it feels like Apple experimenting again, focusing on design, on feel, on making the iPhone exciting in a way it hasn't been for a while. And that's what makes this comparison interesting. Because this video isn't really about which phone is better. On paper, the Pro obviously wins. This is about what kind of iPhone user you are. Are you someone who upgrades every year and just wants the best, most refined version of what you already know? Or are you someone who is a little bit bored of the same old iPhone formula and wants something that feels new again? I've been using both. And after spending time with them side by side, I think the decision between the iPhone Air and the iPhone 17 Pro comes down to you as a user, as opposed to the specs. The biggest difference between these two phones isn't performance, it isn't the camera, it's how they feel. The iPhone 17 Pro feels exactly how you'd expect. Solid, premium, it feels dense. When you hold it, you know you're holding Apple's best. The iPhone Air feels different from the moment you pick it up. It's lighter, it feels more playful. There's something about the design that feels like Apple trying to inject personality back into the iPhone lineup. The Pro is refined, the Air is refreshing, and that difference matters more than you might think. If you upgrade your iPhone every year, the Pro feels familiar and comfortable, almost like it's the safe option. But if you've started to feel like every new iPhone looks and feels the same, the Air feels like a break from that cycle. It feels intentional, like Apple actually wanted to change something rather than just improve it. Neither approach is wrong, but they create two very different experiences. Before we go any further, let's quickly talk about the exact models I've been using. The iPhone Air I have here is in black, and I think this colour works perfectly for what the Air represents. It looks sleek, modern, slightly understated, but still different. The black combined with this new design language just makes it feel fresh. I've also spent time with the lighter colour options for the Air, and in person they all look incredible, almost like jewellery. There's something about the way the light hits those finishes that makes the phone feel more expressive and more design focused. Honestly, you can't really go wrong with any of the colours on the Air. The iPhone 17 Pro Max I've been using is in silver, and I stand by what I said in my full iPhone 17 Pro review. This might be the best looking Pro iPhone Apple have ever made. For me, if you're buying the Pro, it has to be silver. It suits the Pro design perfectly. It looks industrial and clean. Now let's talk about the displays, because this is one area where these two phones are actually almost identical. Both the iPhone Air and the iPhone 17 Pro Max have ProMotion displays, so you're getting that smooth 120Hz refresh rate on both. Scrolling feels fluid, animations are responsive, and everything feels as premium as you'd expect from high-end iPhones. Brightness is also identical, so whether you're indoors or outside in direct sunlight, the experience is essentially the same. In day-to-day use, watching content, browsing social media, replying to messages, there is no meaningful difference in how these screens perform. The only real visual distinction comes down to the bezels. The Pro Max has slightly thinner borders around the display, which gives it that marginally more edge-to-edge look, but unless you have them side by side, you genuinely wouldn't notice. On its own, the Air still looks modern and high-end. Now let's talk about cameras, because this is where the real difference starts to show. The iPhone Air has a single main sensor, and just to be clear, it is very capable. In good lighting, it produces fantastic photos. Colours are natural, detail is sharp, and the consistency is exactly what you'd expect from Apple. For the majority of people who mostly shoot standard photos and videos, this camera is more than enough. The front-facing camera is also identical to the one on the Pro. So if you take a lot of selfies or create content using the front camera, you're not missing out there at all. The quality is the same. Where the Pro separates itself is versatility. With the iPhone 17 Pro, you get the telephoto lens and the ultra-wide lens, and that changes how you shoot. The telephoto gives you proper optical zoom without losing quality, which is huge for portraits or capturing subjects from a distance. The ultra-wide opens up completely different creative options, landscapes or tighter indoor shots, dynamic angles. The Air can still zoom digitally and it does a decent job, but it's not the same as having dedicated hardware for it, and you simply don't have that ultra-wide perspective available at all. So the question becomes, how do you actually use your camera? If you mostly point and shoot with the main lens, take standard photos, record social media videos, and occasionally snap a selfie, the Air is going to feel excellent. You're definitely not getting a bad camera experience. But if you like experimenting with different focal lengths, if you shoot a lot of portraits, if you use ultra-wide creatively, or if photography is a major hobby for you, the Pro is absolutely the one to go for here. When it comes to performance, there really isn't much to separate these two. Both the iPhone Air and the iPhone 17 Pro house the A19 Pro chip, which is honestly incredible when you think about how thin and light the Air is. Apple have still put their most powerful chip into both devices, and in day-to-day use, you feel that. Apps open instantly, animations are smooth for the most part unless you hit the occasional iOS glitch. Gaming, editing, multitasking, neither phone struggles. Performance simply isn't a concern on either of these devices. Where things start to differ slightly is thermals. The Air does get warmer than the Pro in heavier use. It's thinner, lighter, and there's just less physical space to dissipate heat. That said, it's never been a major issue for me. Yes, it gets warm, but not uncomfortably hot, and not to the point where performance drops off in any noticeable way. Battery life, though, is where the real gap shows. The Pro, and especially the Pro Max, feel like phones I simply cannot kill in a day. Even with heavy usage, content creation, social media, filming, and general daily use, they just keep going. The Air doesn't quite have that same endurance. If I'm using it heavily, things like FaceTime, extended camera use, or spending far too long on TikTok, I can easily drain the Air before the day is done. It's not a bad battery life, but it's not forget about charging battery life either. So if longevity is a big priority for you, especially if you're a power user who's constantly on their phone, the Pro definitely has the edge here too. The iPhone 17 Pro is quite simply the best Apple can offer right now. It's refined, it's powerful, the camera system is incredibly versatile, the battery life is excellent, and everything about it feels polished. If you just want the very best version of the iPhone, the safest choice, the most complete choice, the Pro is perfect. It does everything well, and it does it consistently. The iPhone Air, though, is a different kind of iPhone. This is the iPhone for people who have no intention of switching to Android, but are maybe a little bit bored of the same old iPhone formula. If you upgrade year after year and feel like nothing really changes, the Air feels refreshing. It feels like Apple trying something new again. It's lighter, it's different, and it has a personality that stands apart from the traditional Pro lineup. Performance isn't compromised, the main camera is very capable, the display is premium, it's not a lesser iPhone, it's just a different take on what an iPhone can be. For me personally, my favourite iPhone this year is the standard sized iPhone 17 Pro in silver, and that comes down to two things. I love having access to that versatile camera system, especially the telephoto and ultra wide. And I genuinely think this year's Pro design in silver is one of the best Apple have ever done. It feels industrial, clean, and timeless. But that does not mean the Air is wrong. It just means this choice comes down to what excites you. If you want the very best Apple can engineer, go Pro. If you want something that feels different, lighter, a little more refreshing without leaving the Apple ecosystem, the iPhone Air might be exactly what you've been waiting for. And for the first time in a long time, that feels like a genuinely interesting choice. So, what do you think about all of this? Let me know in the comments below, and if you are still watching up to now, then hit the thumbs up button and think about subscribing to the channel to see lots more content like this. For now though, thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.